This was a murder of an unprecedented scale and a rare complexity, with 19 crime scenes spread across the force, almost 3,000 exhibits recovered, 2,000 hours of CCTV and over 450 statements taken. Hundreds of officers coming together from uniform, investigative and specialist roles in order to ensure justice for Stuart and his family in the most challenging of circumstances.
Well, first tonight, and police are searching for more body parts after a torso was found wrapped in plastic in a nature reserve in Salford.
We're investigating the discovery of human remains that were found by passers-by here at Kersal Wetlands yesterday evening. We do not know the identity of the person or whether they are male or female. We need to make a breakthrough in this case, and we urge anyone with any information whatsoever to contact the police without delay.
So on the afternoon of the 4th of April 2024, 3 members of the public were in Kersaldale Wetlands. They believed they'd found human remains wrapped in cling film and covered in blood, what they described as a torso. A police response took place. Uniform officers and detectives attended the scene, secured it as a crime scene, and an investigation then took place, led by District, and the next day led by our Serious Crime Division. As part of our initial response, we set several priority lines of inquiry. One was the recovery, the identification of cameras and the recovery of CCTV from every entrance all around the woodland. This was a huge first task for our Vera unit. So, having recovered approximately 2,000 hours worth of CCTV footage from a long list of cameras surrounding the woodland, we needed to give Vera direction around exactly what they were looking for. It was clear to me that this body part had been taken to the woods by somebody on foot. You couldn't drive a vehicle into the woodland, so what we were looking for was a pedestrian clearly carrying something very heavy. Someone going about their business, carrying a bag, possibly struggling with it. Over the days that followed, the Vera unit found exactly that on CCTV, with footage approaching the main arterial route, approaching the woodland, whereby a male was seen carrying a bag, struggling with the weight, changing hands and resting several times. Vera officers out on the ground in the Winton area actually see heavy bagman as he waits for a bus and then boards that bus. A short time later, officers from GMP, uniform officers, cause that bus to stop. Uniform officers board the bus and they locate heavy bagman. He's identified as Marcin Majurkovic of an address in the Winton area. Marcin is actually found in possession of a mobile phone that doesn't belong to him and a series of bank cards in the name of Stuart Everett, who we now know to be our victim.
You're under arrest for the meeting time, OK? Suspicion of murder for an incident which occurred in Salford.
Some other news, and a man whose dismembered body was discovered wrapped in plastic at a nature reserve in Salford has been named today by police. He's believed to be 67-year-old local man Stuart Everett.
Officers attend Marcin Majurkovic's home address and secure it as a crime scene. On face value, this just looked like any other property on the street. There was signs of renovation work with a skip outside the property and a large amount of items within the skip, but there was no immediately obvious crime scene. So a thorough crime scene examination and search of the property then commenced. Officers attributed one of the bedrooms to Marcin Majurkovic and a thorough examination of his bedroom took place. Crime scene managers peeled back the carpet within Marcin Majurkovic's bedroom and they found evidence of blood, a clean-up and tool marks within the floorboards. Through a forensic examination of Marcin Majurkovic's bedroom, we conclusively proved that it was Stuart Everett's blood on the floorboards, and furthermore, the nails that had been used to tack a piece of carpet over the crime scene in order to conceal it, those nails contained the suspect Marcin Majurkovic's DNA from where he had handled those nails, nailed them into the floorboards to hide the crime scene. We established he'd been using a white van man to remove property from the address, and from our inquiries we successfully traced furniture to an industrial estate to a lock-up in the Bury area. Within this lock-up was a purple sofa bed, which we knew from footage from the suspect's mobile phone had previously been in that same bedroom. This sofa bed was subject to extensive forensic examination and it was clearly covered in a large amount of blood. That blood has been successfully tested and by DNA examination attributed to our victim, Stuart Everett. So detectives meticulously studied the suspect's movements and we identified from CCTV footage every time he left his home address on what we say are deposition journeys in the days that followed the murder. Detectives conducted extensive inquiries into the suspect's movements, and from studying further CCTV footage, the suspect's mobile phone download, and by obtaining billing information from his network provider, we were able to build up a comprehensive picture of Marcin Majurkovic's movements in the time that followed the likely murder. We managed to trace that he'd been to several remote locations all across Manchester and Salford, and we say these are locations Marcin Majurkovic had visited to deposit further body parts from the victim. Detectives, crime scene managers, underwater search unit and search teams deployed to each location in order to recover evidence and the victim's human remains. Two officers from Greater Manchester Police searched for over 15 weeks in order to recover evidence and human remains from the 19 locations across Greater Manchester, and recoveries were made from the vast majority of those searches. A lot of the locations were country parks, waterways, where people would go to enjoy the weekend, a walk with a family, walking the dog for example, and we received overwhelming support from the local communities whilst we thoroughly searched each of these locations. The next key breakthrough in the investigation came from a thorough search of Blackleach Reservoir. Through studying the suspect's mobile phone movements, we knew that he'd been to all four corners of the reservoir, and we deployed the Northwest Underwater Search Team into the reservoir, and they made remarkable recoveries, including the victim's skull located in 4 pieces, spread throughout the reservoir. This skull was taken to the forensic mortuary at Oldham Hospital, where it was reconciled, and we managed to establish, working with a forensic pathologist, that Stuart had been murdered by blunt force trauma. As the search of Blackleach Reservoir continued, we also found a hacksaw blade that contained the victim Stuart Everett's DNA, and we say this is one of the blades used to dismember the victim. So whilst this was a very technically complex investigation due to the high number of body parts, officers kept in the forefront of their mind that this was our victim. This was Stuart Everett, and officers worked tirelessly in order to make recoveries of evidence and of his remains so that justice could be done, but also so that he could be returned to his family and most importantly, laid to rest.